चलो प्रारंभ किया जाए. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Online, am I audible? Is the screen properly visible? Thumbs up. Great. So a little bit of static GK today. You can pick up pen, paper, and notes so that you can note down these things and refer to them time and again. Let's understand how many of these things you already know. Technically speaking, you should know most of them. You know what's a trailblazer? Who or what is a trailblazer?
क्रिकेट की टीम
क्रिकेट की टीम तो कुछ भी होती है, बट ट्रेलब्लेजर का मतलब क्या होता है? हैं? What does a trailblazer mean? A person who blazes a trail. What's a trail?
Pathway.
Pathway. So a trailblazer, to blaze a trail.
The first person to do something.
Literally, it's written on the screen now. First, right? So we start with first in India, first in the world, and so on. How many of them do you know? First of something. What comes to your mind?
नील आर्मस्ट्रॉन्ग
Neil Armstrong. Definitely not first in India, but first for what?
रीचिंग द मून
First person to reach the moon. Okay. Then
यूरी गागारिन
Yuri Gagarin. Who was Yuri Gagarin?
was to reach space.
First person in space. And country of origin?
Russia,
Russia. Then Rakesh Sharma. Okay, who was Rakesh Sharma?
India,
शर्मा जी का बेटा ऑब्वियसली इंडिया का ही होगा, बट किया क्या था भाई साहब ने?
space में गया.
First Indian to be in space, and recently there was a follow-up. Someone followed him to space from India. Major news. First Indian to be in the International Space Station. First Indian to perform experiments in space. न्यूज़पेपर उठाया है? प्लीज बेटा, पिछले एक हफ्ते से के पहले फ्रंट हेडलाइंस थे. पेज न्यूज़पेपर में सिर्फ हेडलाइन ही था, 3-4 पेजेस भर के था वो. लास्ट वीक,
वो ईरान में हुआ था इसलिए.
हाँ वही.
जिसमें अपना कोई लेना देना नहीं है, वो हमको थोड़ा बहुत पता होता है. एंड द बिगेस्ट अचीवमेंट दैट इंडिया हैज हैड एंड filled with news. There was live coverage. People were following it live on YouTube.
गए थे वो वापस आ गए.
हे भगवान, उसको हुआ तो साल भर होने आया है.
मार्च में
दिसंबर जैन में तो लौट गए थे शायद. Ever heard of the Axiom 4, the International Space Station? Captain Sudhanshu Shukla. Axiom 4 took off from the Cape Canaveral at Florida in US with 4 astronauts on board. The entire thing was led by Captain Peggy of US. The pilot was Sudhanshu Shukla from India, and then you had 2 other team members, one from Poland and one from Hungary. So they reached space, and the Axiom 4 docked with the International Space Station, and they went to the space station. They will be staying there for 2 weeks. So in a few days, they should be returning, hopefully safely. And I think I mentioned all this in last week's GK, which some of you might not have followed. But not definitely Sudhanshu Shukla reaching the International Space Station, the second Indian ever in space, and the first Indian on the International Space Station is one major news which you should be knowing. Because GK Current Affairs mein, there's a very high chance of this particular question coming in this particular year. Okay. So let's see standard चीजों में क्या क्या पता होता है अपने को.
the first prime minister, president,
Okay, so उसमें क्या क्या पता है? First Prime Minister,
Jawaharlal,
first President,
Rajendra Prasad,
okay, then first female President,
Indira Gandhi, president नहीं.
who was Indira Gandhi? What is she first for?
Prime Minister.
First female Prime Minister of India, first female President of India.
She was also the first female president.
No.
Why miss it?
I'm asking who was the first female president of
Recently
India.
था कि पहले था?
Depends on what you define as recent.
10 साल.
हाँ, not that. 10, 12, 15 साल के अंदर तो था.
द्रौपदी मुर्मू.
She's the current one, but not the first one. Pratibha Patil, first female president of India. Draupadi Murmu is the second one.
What? Pratibha?
Patil. हाँ, chalo. Let us see then. Who was the first president of the Indian Republic?
अच्छा राजेंद्र.
Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Right now we said that. Hopefully we know that. Okay. Who was the first Prime Minister of Free India?
जवाहरलाल नेहरू.
Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Who was the first Indian to win a Nobel Prize?
रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर.
For
Literacy.
Gitanjali specifically, and the field is literature. भाई लिटरेसी में अगर कोई काम करेगा तो उसको मोस्ट प्रोबेबली नोबेल पीस प्राइज मिलेगा या कुछ और मिलेगा, बट लिटरेचर के लिए रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर. व्हाट वाज ही पॉपुलरली नोन एज? टाइटल फॉर रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर
Nightingale of India.
was Sarojini Naidu. Why would Rabindranath Tagore be called Nightingale of India?
क्योंकि उसने वो एंथम बनाया, वो सॉन्ग बनाया, वंदे मातरम.
Dude, Vande Mataram was Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, which he penned in his book Anand Math.
तो एंथम बनाया ना नेशनल.
He wrote Rabindranath Tagore wrote the national anthem Jana Gana Mana and is credited with the national anthem of more than one country.
कौन सा?
Bangladesh's Amar Shonar Bangla was also, no.
नेपाल.
Bangladesh literally gave the answer, Amar Shonar Bangla from Bangladesh, and he's credited with the inspiration behind the national anthem of Sri Lanka. But technically the full credits go to the national anthem of India and Bangladesh. Jana Gana Mana for India and Amar Shonar Bangla for Bangladesh. Both are Rabindranath Tagore, popularly known as Gurudev. The first president of the Indian National Congress.
प्रेसिडेंट याद नहीं.
The first president of the Indian National Congress was W.C. Banerjee. The Grand Old Party of India. Okay. Who was the first Muslim president of the Indian National Congress? So these are all pre-independence.
अच्छा this was before.
When was the Indian National Congress formed?
Independence के time.
Before that.
It was the early 1900s. And the Indian National Congress was one of the chief parties fighting for the independence of India.
उसके बाद क्या हुआ independence के?
Uske baad it was the largest party. So most of the prime ministers came from the Indian National Congress. But before the Indian National Congress, there was a faction of people who did not agree with some of their principles. So they split and formed another party, which was
BJP.
the All India Muslim League.
Oh.
BJP कब आया?
The Bharatiya Janata Party only came around in 80s or 90s. Before that, there was a party called the Jan Sangh. And after the Jan Sangh, the RSS and the Jan Sangh were basically the things which gave rise to the Bharatiya Janata Party. But before that, for almost 40 odd years, it was the Indian National Congress. There was no alternative. Then you had the Janta Dal. We had a couple of prime ministers from there. Huh?
AAP.
Aam Aadmi Party was 2011-12 के आस.
बहुत पुराना होगा एकदम.
Aam Aadmi Party literally was after the entire Lokpal agitation took place. Are you aware of the Lokpal agitation? So you are aware what is the the Lokpal bill was passed, which was supposed to be accountability of the governments. So Anna Hazare and Arvind Kejriwal were at the forefront of fighting for the Lokpal bill. But then they had fundamental differences in views, and Arvind Kejriwal then, who had very famously said he would never be joining politics and stuff, broke off and started the Aam Aadmi Party, and then they came in Delhi, and the rest is history. But the Aam Aadmi Party is barely a decade old. Okay, so the first Muslim president of the Indian National Congress was Badruddin Tayyab ji. Off-topic question, you can keep them, but I'll be answering them when I note the things. You can put them in the chat. I'll try to answer as and when I notice it, Prithvi. Okay. Now, who was the first Muslim president of India? By India, I mean free India, of course. Are you aware of any Muslim presidents of India? At least one Muslim president of India is so popularly known by practically everybody. For the big reason that he was not a political person. He was related to the sciences. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. अब्दुल नाम तेरे को क्या सनातनी ब्राह्मण नाम लगता है तेरे को? But he was not the first one. So the first Muslim president of India was Dr. Zakir Hussain. Dr. Zakir Hussain was the first Muslim president, not to be confused with artists by the same name. Okay. Who was the first British Governor General of India? So before independence, we had viceroys, East India Company viceroys, then we had governor generals. Radcliffe was the person who was responsible for the partition of India. He literally drew the line which separated India and Pakistan. That's why the line is also called the Radcliffe line. But that was not Radcliffe. In fact, he would be among the last people before India got its independence. I'm asking for the first one. And by the way, who was the last Governor General of India? It's a very tricky question. Victoria was the queen. Why would a queen be the Governor General? And if you think a female during the 1800s or 1900s, depending on first or last, would be a Governor General, then you give them way more credit than thing for feminism. I mean, they can be the monarch, but Governor General, nah, still patriarchy ruled. The last governor, he was not a Governor General. He was in the army, the British Army. Jallianwala Bagh massacre was under General Dyer. Jesus, history नाम की कोई subject है? Okay, so it's a tricky question of who was the last Governor General, because it depends on whether you're asking for the last British or the last Indian Governor General. The last British Governor General was Lord Mountbatten. The last Indian Governor General was C. Rajagopalachari. Who was the first Indian Governor General? Rajagopalachari, because there was only one Indian Governor General, after which there were no Governor Generals. But the first British Governor General was Lord William Bentinck. Yep. और कितना चाहिए? क्यों भाई? चचा लगते हैं मेरे? क्यों भाई? It is not a democratic thing. No idea why he got shifted. You are thinking of all these things as being in elections and democratic processes. Remember, these were things which were just appointed. They were not democratically in place. Okay, the first British Governor General for Bengal. No, Warren Hastings.
Are we supposed to actually know all of this?
I'm surprised you don't.
I have not studied Indian history. I studied world history.
किसकी history पढ़ी है?
World War I, World War II,
हाँ.
and Cold War.
What led to the which incident, specific incident sparked off the First World War?
The assassination of Lord, I can't remember his name right.
Exactly. यही तो हालत है.
नहीं एम्स्टर्डम तो नहीं था. ऑस्ट्रिया में हुआ था उसका assassination.
हम्म.
And he was going on a car and उसको कार नहीं जो भी वो था.
Carriage.
Carriage and he was killed there.
Archduke Ferdinand.
Yes. that.
ये तो हालत है. जो पढ़ते
Sir,
वही याद नहीं रहता.
Sir, 2 साल पहले दिया था बोर्ड.
2 डेकेड से ज्यादा हो गए मुझे दिए बोर्ड्स. तुम पैदा नहीं हुए थे, उसके पहले का है ये भगवान. The first, okay, what was the country of origin of Hitler? पढ़ा है?
Austria.
He's Austrian, not
जर्मनी में क्या कर रहा है वो गद्दार?
ये
Because he was a part of the
भगवान.
army in Germany in the First World War.
सब कौन क्या पहना अपने को क्या जहाँ पे काम करता है.
Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Absolutely to know history. The point of remembering things is not knowing that specific detail, but exercising your brain cells so that it develops, so that it contains information. Okay, first British Viceroy of India. So you had people who were representatives of the crown and who were considered to be the de facto ruler of the country.
ये होएगा monarchy में से कोई ना.
As if monarchy के नाम पता है.
British में.
Was Lord Canning.
Funny.
So would our names seem to people who are not from our part of the world.
राकेश में क्या बोला है सर?
हाँ?
राकेश में क्या बोला?
अपने because we are used to it. पोलैंड में जाके 2-3 नाम और लास्ट नेम्स उठा लो. प्रोनाउंस करके दिखा दो, मान जाओ. आयरिश एंड वेल्श नेम्स जाके उठा लो.
रशियन.
हाँ?
जर्मनी.
स्लाविक कंट्रीज के नाम्स उठा लो. आयरिश नेम्स उठा लो. जो लिखा है वो प्रोनाउंस नहीं कर पाओगे.
US का delete आ गया.
For example, there is a very famous name, Siobhan. Siobhan. It's pronounced Shuan. Siobhan.
US के अच्छे हैं, फिर मिडिल ईस्ट के सारे अच्छे. उसमें मोहम्मद अल करीम, मोहम्मद साला, वो ऐसे ही है.
बिन लादेन.
बिन लादेन.
बिन का मतलब क्या होता है? सब नामों में बीच में बिन आता है. क्यों? Bin means son of. So what's your name? Mana. What's your father's name?
Hans.
So your technical name, if it is Arabic, will be Manav bin Hans. Who was the first Governor General of Free India? ये तो मैं जवाब दे चुका हूँ. There was only one.
अरे आतर भाई क्या था? ए से था.
It was Lord Mountbatten. He was not Indian. He was not Indian. Because at the time of independence, Lord Mountbatten was still the Governor General. After him came an Indian. So Lord Louis Mountbatten was the Governor General of India at the time of its independence. And he was the one who declared, who made our Independence Day as 15th of August.
उसको बल्कि डिले किया ना इंडिपेंडेंस को, पहले जल्दी होने वाला था.
नहीं, I mean आगे पीछे था. They had not exactly decided on what date the independence should be. So some reporter asked him, so Lord Mountbatten, what is the date of independence? And this bugger never wanted to not give an answer. So one big date which stuck in his mind was the War of Burma. 15th of August was a crucial date. So that was the date, so he immediately said 15th of August. If Indians were consulted, we would never have taken 15th of August 1947 as... Huh? For similar reasons, because 15th of August was a Friday. Inauspicious.
ऐसा करना चाहिए ना जन्माष्टमी जैसे.
वो जो भी होता है 15th August of Friday तो नहीं ही लेते अपनी जनता. But he on the spot, just the first date which came to his mind, he blabbed out, and then everybody had to work to ensure that 15th of August was our Independence Day.
तो ऐसा पाकिस्तान का भी कुछ ऐसे लॉजिक था.
हाँ, हाँ?
14th August.
They just wanted it before India. That's it.
बस क्या जल्दी.
Okay. Who was the first and जब आपके साथ ही आ गया. First and last Indian to be the Governor General. I mentioned this. C. Rajagopala. This is Chakravarti Rajagopalachari. C. Rajaji, he was known as. Rajagopalachari. Chakravarti Rajagopalachari is known to a lot of young Indians, especially because he has written a very simple version of both the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. And for many people, this is the first version of the Ramayana and Mahabharata that they read. So if you are interested in the Indian epics, you should pick up the versions of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata written by C. Rajaji. Brilliantly written.
कितने टाइम के लिए था ये?
सबसे पहले तो कितने टाइम के लिए थे ये?
थे।
Little bit of respect. Not very long, because it was only for the transition period, and then of course you had the independence. I mean, you had the constitution coming in, the president being the first citizen and everything. When did the constitution come into force?
1950.
So 47 August independence,
15
January 50 was technically the term.
3 years.
Okay. The first man who introduced printing press
ये बहुत सुना है।
in India.
भूल गया था।
नहीं सुना।
I'm surprised सुना हो तो.
मैंने actually सुना।
So this was James Hickey.
1962 ऐसा कुछ।
But which was who introduced the first printing press ever? The modern printing press, so to say. It was Gutenberg. Never heard the word Gutenberg?
I've heard it, but I don't know.
city का ना।
So Gutenberg is the person who was credited with creation of the printing press. So the Gutenberg Bible is the oldest known document, printed document in the Harvard Library. And there is a thing called Project Gutenberg, which is an international project where volunteers not translate, but they convert all books into digital format. So if you just type Project Gutenberg, you will get most of the copyright-free books available free for download. It is one of the largest free literature project in the world. Okay, the first Indian to join the Indian Civil Services, the ICS. You know what are the Indian Civil Services, right?
YS office.
IAS and all that. So was the before? So the ICS is basically a bane of the Britishers. They wanted bureaucrats from India who could do all the work for them.
So this was before independence.
Way before independence. This was way before independence.
Bhagat Singh.
Bhagat Singh was no way.
Random guess.
Civil services.
So if he
Bhagat
died
Singh
as-
died before he could have even qualified for the civil services.
कब मारे?
Bhagat Singh died in 1930s mein at some time. He was in his bare mid 20s. Younger than that. Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev.
Yeah, yeah. That time we had him.
Your
I know he was
neighbor,
arrested
his
at 12 years old.
ये कुछ नया लेके आया.
सही में गूगल कर लो। मैं बुक में वो हाँ।
So the first Indian ICS was Satyendranath Tagore. Brother, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Though I'm not sure.
I thought you would be like, no.
Not very sure.
First in
The first man, the first Indian to be a part of the Indian Civil Services. Purva got it. Good. Okay. Now, who was the first India's first man in space? ये तो discuss किया अभी.
अभी जो आपने बोला हुआ ना
First one in space.
राकेश राकेश भाई ना
Last name?
शर्मा
Rakesh Sharma was the first. And by the way, Rakesh Sharma still is alive, very much alive,
तमिलनाडु में
down south. He lives a very quiet life. So it's not that, but who helped us send, which country helped us send him to space?
रशिया
Yep.
और कौन
Along with the Russian team, Rakesh Sharma was the first Indian in space. And what were his first words? What were his words when he talked to Prime Minister Indira Gandhi from space? How does it feel? What does? Huh? No. Very famous line from a very famous song. How does India look or something when he was asked? He said, "Sare jahan se acha."
हिंदुस्तान में
Immortal words now. Okay. The first Prime Minister of India who resigned without completing the full term.
अच्छा डिजाइन होगा
First of all, what is the full term of an Indian Prime Minister?
5 years
5 years. So was the first one
26 days के लिए जो था
13 days?
13 days
Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
वही
is the first one
So the first Prime Minister who resigned without completing was Morarji Desai.
sir when
But I thought he died.
So people can be everybody died. Most people do die, huh?
he resigned because
And people can have multiple terms.
he's saying he resigned I mean he was not the prime minister anymore because he died
Could be.
तो resign
वो
थोड़ी
resign
हुआ
नहीं हुआ
वो।
ना
हाँ तो this is a person can have multiple terms.
ये तो second prime minister है ना?
Was he the
हाँ,
second
हाँ,
one? Which state from?
यूपी?
Gujarat.
हाँ, अरे हाँ,
ये
यार,
भाई
यूपी
मोरारजी
का
भाई
बोला था।
देसाई भाई.
So
इंदिरा गांधी के पहले थे।
if someone resigns, is a re-election happens or the
Re-election.
Uh,
For the second
generally, see if the person prime ministers are not elected, right? The party is elected and the person is then selected from the winning
कोई
party.
party select
So within the party, if they lose a confidence motion, that means the entire cabinet, as the majority party, does not have the power, and he has resigned for some other purpose, then another person can come up. But if there's no confidence motion against the party, then of course there have to be general elections.
पैसा होता है ना, जैसे suppose if Narendra Modi died today, so the home minister, the next person in the power of the party will become the
There is a
president.
line, no, there is a line of succession, but yes, because
But ऐसा भी मैं देख रहा हूँ,
it is not that
next
he
बनेगा.
is not elected by the
But like,
country.
he has to be for the transition period.
Yeah, he's not elected by the country, right? So it can be any person as long as the party has the majority in the house.
तो जैसे अगर राजीव गांधी जब मरे थे, तो उसके बाद कौन था succession?
Rajiv Gandhi के बाद was it VP Singh? Not sure who came up after Rajiv Gandhi.
सिख था ना कोई? वो सिख था ना?
Sikhs में तो मनमोहन सिंह was way
नहीं,
after
उसके
Rajiv
पहले
Gandhi.
उसके पहले।
Before Manmohan Singh,
कोई था,
I.K. Gujral was not a Sikh.
कोई तो नहीं।
VP Singh was not a Sikh. I.K. Gujral was not. You'll have to check who came after Rajiv Gandhi. Okay, the first Indian commander-in-chief of India. This is for the armed forces. Right now, who is the commander-in-chief of the Indian armed forces? If you are thinking of that Munir guy, he's a field marshal. Currently, who is the commander-in-chief of the Indian armed forces? Easiest answer. Easiest answer. Right now, it is Draupadi Murmu. The president of India is always the commander-in-chief.
Oh.
Currently. But the first one was Field Marshal Cariappa. Right now, the president is always the commander-in-chief of the Indian Armed Forces. So whoever is the president by virtue of their post is the de facto commander-in-chief.
तो ये का president?
ये नहीं थे उस time पे. We are talking about the Indian Armed Forces is older than Indian independence, by the way.
कब चालू हुआ?
Way before we got independence, we had the armed
Possible
forces.
कैसे?
Possible क्या?
Independence.
This, of
British
course,
में आता है।
Field Marshal Cariappa was after independence. Then, of course, we had changes made. A lot of changes have happened. The first Chief of Army Staff was Maharaj Rajendra Singh Ji, General. The first Indian member of the Viceroy's Executive Council, so pre-independence.
कोई freedom fighter है?
You think freedom fighters would be selected by the Britishers to be member of something as big as the
मतलब
Executive
power उनके
Council?
पास हो गया ज़्यादा।
This was S.P. Sinha. The Britishers would want people who would follow their line, and Indian freedom fighters would be the last people they would want to be part.
Now suppose like
And this is Viceroy, so this is even before Governor. That means this is way before Indian independence struggle was at its
now
peak.
suppose like मैं हूँ, मैं बहुत ज़्यादा powerless हो रहा है, तो Britishers से bribe करने के लिए मेरे को ले रहे हैं।
But then freedom fighters would not agree.
गलती से कोई कर लिया तो
गलती से how do you agree?
They are not
It's
16,
not
17-year-olds who are just chewing gum and watching Instagram reels all day. Come on. Way more learned than that. Way more strategic thinkers than that. First president of India who died while in office.
जवाहरलाल नेहरू।
He was not even the president ever.
अरे
This was Dr. Zakir Hussain,
Crazy.
अब्दुल कलाम
First,
नहीं थे?
Muslim
first Muslim
president. Yes.
president.
He was also the first one who died while in office. First Muslim president of Indian Republic.
डॉक्टर जमीर
हाँ सेम ही है, अभी तो
You
आया
said
था.
this, yeah.
Yes. फिर भी सोच रहे हैं लोग.
मैं का
पता नहीं.
डायरेक्ट
जवाब तो बोला नहीं किसी ने.
मैं तो बोला डॉक्टर जमीर
The first Prime Minister of India who did not face the Parliament.
मतलब
So you're supposed to be in front of the houses when you're giving speeches or delivering something, right? But if you are not, so which Prime Minister, the first one, never went to the house?
इंदिरा गांधी यस
This was Charan Singh, Chaudhary Charan Singh. The first PM of India who never faced the Parliament was Chaudhary Charan Singh. The first Field Marshal of India,
You said this, no?
मार्शल करिए
that was Commander in Chief.
पता नहीं फिर.
ये तो 100% पता है लोगों को. Popular media has checked out this name past 2, 3, 4 years. Field Marshal SHF
सैम है
Sam Manekshaw was the first Field Marshal. How many Field Marshals has India had so far?
वन ना थ्री
I literally put 2 names, so one तो है नहीं answer.
थ्री
2. Manekshaw and Kariappa. Both names I have displayed.
अभी कौन है
It's a lifelong post.
You had said this, I remember.
Field Marshals are for life. You are Field Marshal till your death. And Field Marshal is not a...
A job.
It's a job. It's a title. It's a title.
अभी कैसे इलेक्ट होते हैं लोग
It's not elected. You are given the title based on your service. And it's more of a honor given. It's not a
currently कोई नहीं
post.
है ना?
नहीं, currently we don't have any Field Marshals.
नेसेसरी नहीं है होना
It's an honorary title. It's not. It's like calling somebody a lord, sir, something like that. It's an honorary title in the military. They are declared field marshals for life, and they don't have any job particularly.
How does one achieve it?
Like I said, there is no clear-cut procedure that you follow these eligibility criteria and automatically. No, it is a special thing honored to given in honor to a person in recognition of their services.
Is it, can it be given after like someone dies?
Post-mortem, I doubt. The first Indian to get a Nobel Prize in physics.
That nuclear scientist. The Baba थे ना
Homi Bhabha.
नहीं
No.
I was going to say Aryabhatta, he's really old.
Aryabhatta was ancient India.
I know.
Ancient India. We are talking a couple of millennia back.
He invented the zero.
वो मरे थे ना
Yeah. He gave the concept of zero as a number.
प्लेन क्रैश में
Huh?
प्लेन क्रैश में मरे थे ना जहांगीर क्या नाम था
Homi Bhabha.
होमी बाबा थे
No. Homi Bhabha was a nuclear scientist, but not the first Indian to get a Nobel Prize.
I don't know.
Sir C.V. Raman
I haven't
for something called the Raman effect.
studied physics. Dog written ninth.
You don't have to study physics to know history. No.
History, sir. Physics की history.
नोबेल प्राइज है
How many movies have you studied as a subject? But I'm sure movie trivia जुबानी याद होगी.
नहीं
You ask me Instagram पे मैं तो भी आ जाएगा.
हाँ हमें Instagram is part of which subject? कार्डियाशियंस के बारे में कुछ पूछूंगा कुछ ना कुछ तो आवड़ता होएगा. कौन से सब्जेक्ट में स्टडी किया है वो?
तो real life application.
मैथ्स
आज पे Kardashians study किया था तूने?
Sad. Okay. First Indian to receive the Bharat Ratna.
अरे आपने बोला था
मैं नहीं थी.
बहुत कुछ बोलता हूँ मैं. But if you can you, how many Indians can you name who have received the Nobel Prize in various fields?
6
How many can you name? So you can name 6.
I can name 2
At least 2 तो 2 तो डिस्प्ले कर चुका हूँ मैं स्क्रीन पे तो 2 तो पता होना चाहिए. रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर and Sir C.V. Raman. Who else?
था 3-4 तो थे
First Indian to receive the Bharat Ratna was Dr. Radhakrishnan. Who was Dr. Radhakrishnan?
प्रेसिडेंट
Second President of India, the first Vice President and second President of India. Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan How do we celebrate his birthday?
Teachers Day.
Yep. When is Teachers Day in India?
14th November.
5th of September. What is 14th November?
Children's Day.
Children.
Day,
And that is the
right.
birthday of
Jawaharlal.
Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Hey, Bhagwan. Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan was 5th of September, Teachers Day. 14th November is Children's Day.
इन्होंने क्या किया?
Huh?
इन्होंने ऐसा क्या किया?
Boss, if you are celebrating his birthday as Teachers Day, it is pretty obvious what his achievement
He
would
was a
be,
teacher.
other than being the second Vice President of India. He was an academic.
तो
He
literature
got a
वाला.
Bharat Ratna for teaching.
Bharat Ratna is generally for great achievement in any field.
अच्छा military base में.
Like,
Bharat Ratna is not a military award.
What
It's a
was
civ-
military base?
Paramveer Chakra, Shaurya Chakra, so many other things. Veer Chakra, Mahavir Chakra. Bharat Ratna is a civilian award in India.
how many every year one math apne
No, 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 no. Multiple can be given, but it's rare to be, for somebody. But yeah, what ton के भाव में मिलता है?
English channel.
First Indian to cross the English Channel was Mihir Sen.
He's
Swimmer.
वैसे swimming करेगा ना.
How else? Acha, no, it could be boat or something. No, first person to swim across the English Channel. Physically
मैं भी
swim.
plane से cross किया हूँ यार. किया है मैंने.
first
UK गया था तो ऐसे फ्रांस के ऊपर वो पता नहीं मुझे.
इसको भी अभी भारत रत्न दे दो.
देना चाहिए.
Okay. The first person to receive the Jnanpith Awards. These are for the arts. Mostly literature. Mostly literature.
Rabindranath Tagore.
The first Jnanpith Award was Sri Shankar Kuru.
What did he like put down?
Literature.
Like, is there any famous one you would know?
I wouldn't know, but somebody would know. So the Jnanpith Award is given for works of literature. You know, there's something called the Sathya Academy, right?
Yeah, heard of it.
It promotes arts, basically. Okay, first speaker of the Lok Sabha.
When was it formed? Lok Sabha.
Part of the Parliament of India.
19.
The Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and the President form the Parliament.
साथ में ही form होना पूरा.
I mean, the structure was there even since the British time, but officially, formally.
Nehru.
How can the Prime Minister be the speaker? Generally, no. First of all, the speaker is generally supposed to be non-partisan. So, although they can belong to one of the parties, once they become the speaker, they don't have allegiance to the party; they have allegiance to the country.
वो मालूम नहीं.
The first the first speaker of the Lok Sabha was Ganesh Vasudev Mavlankar, G.V. Mavlankar. Online, बढ़िया, Apurva giving me the answer. Brilliant. G.V. Mavlankar was the first speaker. हाँ?
Google करने में क्या?
बेटा तेरे साथ बैठ के जवाब देता है तभी भी सारे जवाब उसी से आते हैं.
कौन करता है? सारे शांत रहते हैं. वो अथर्व भी देता है.
अपने को नहीं आता, नहीं किसी को नहीं आता है.
ये तो किसी को नहीं आता.
Dude, G.V. Mavlankar मेरे को 4th standard में आता था when I used to participate in quiz competitions. तुमको 12th मैं जब 4th में था तो मैं सर नहीं था, but interest होता था जीके करंट अफेयर्स में. G.V. Mavlankar तो यार फर्स्ट वाइस प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया
नहीं आपने अभी बोला. हाँ.
डॉक्टर सर्वपल्ली राधाकृष्णन. एंड ये मुझे पता था 3rd स्टैंडर्ड में, बिकॉज टीचर्स डे पे स्पीच देना होता है. तो स्पीच देते वक्त घर वालों ने, मम्मी ने पूरा ऐसे लिख के रटवाया था. तो रट्टा मार के मेरे को याद है ये सब. 3rd 4th स्टैंडर्ड. हाँ?
What was their age when he was the vice president?
What?
What was your age, sir?
Nah, bhai, his age.
I was not born. हाँ.
His age when he
I
was
don't
the
know.
vice president. आपने तो बोला full रट्टा मारा.
हाँ तो रट्टा पूरी लाइफ हिस्ट्री रट्टे नहीं मारी. I know he was a teacher. He won the Templeton Award.
कौन से स्कूल में पढ़ाया था?
हाँ?
कौन से स्कूल में पढ़ाया
Best.
था? Not bad, sir.
तुझे पता?
बेस्ट स्कूल पता है किधर है?
India.
Was the first education minister of India.
Guessing.
करंट नहीं पता, एजुकेशन फर्स्ट का तो क्या ही पता होगा अपने को. The first education minister was Dr. Abdul Kalam Azad, not APJ Abdul Kalam, different person. This was Dr. Abdul Kalam Azad. Maulana Abdul Kalam, he was known as. The first home minister of India
और सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल.
was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Where was he born?
ना ना.
गुजरात.
Gujarat, yes, Karamsad. नियर नडियाद. वो कहाँ है पता है? कहाँ है?
बड़ौदा के एक्सप्रेस में खाता है.
Okay. The first Indian Air Chief Marshal.
This is also like a position, very honorary
Yep.
position.
Yep. This was Air Marshal S. Mukherjee.
How many positions? Like, is it
Navy,
like
Army और Air वाला.
is it like the field marshal thing that we have?
No, I don't think it's an honorary position. I think Air Chief Marshal is like the
Head.
big boss of the thing. It's not. I don't think it's an honorary position. I think it's a proper position. First Indian Naval Chief was Vice Admiral R.D. Katari. First Judge of the International Court of Justice. First Indian, I would guess, was Dr. Nagendra Singh. First Indian to be the judge at the International Court, not the first one ever. First person to reach Mount Everest without oxygen. All of these are from India. Not the first in the world, but first in India. Was Sherpa Anga Dorji. You know what the word Sherpa means, right?
Tiger. Tigress.
Lion.
Lioness.
Sherpa literally means guide. The person who guides you is called a Sherpa. That's why most of these Nepali names who are associated with mountain climbing, they have the word Sherpa before them. So Sherpa is not a name, Sherpa is a title. So like who was the first one to reach the top of Mount Everest ever?
Someone. Sherpa.
Sir Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing Norgay. Well, the two. So Sherpa Tenzing Norgay, Tenzing Norgay is his name. Sherpa is the title that he has. Okay, first person to get the Paramveer Chakra. This is the highest military award in India. Gallantry awards they are known as. So the first person to get the PVC, Paramveer Chakra, was Major Somnath Sharma. Danche, the first person to resign from the central cabinet.
Parliament.
Yep.
मतलब as कोई भी position.
But first resignation was Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. What is Shyama Prasad Mukherjee famously associated with? One of the inspiring people behind the formation of the BJP. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee is often mentioned in BJP thingies. Okay. First person to receive the Nobel Prize in Economics.
वो आता है ना.
Indian, of course.
Indian.
All of these are first Indian, not first ever. These are all first Indians.
जानते होंगे.
हाँ?
जानते होंगे.
उनकी बेटी को तो जानते होंगे, hopefully. His daughter is an actress.
उसके पापा बैडमिंटन प्लेयर थे.
हाँ. Prakash Padukone was a badminton player. Is a badminton player. Represented India at various levels. But the first one to get the Nobel Prize in Economics was Dr. Amartya Sen. Nandana Sen. नंदना सेन भी नहीं पता होगा. Okay, चलो.
Can you like give like a movie she's been in?
Raja Ravi Verma के life पे based there was a movie. Nandana Sen was in that. I mean, if you Google her image, you might have seen her. Daughter of Amartya Sen.
Yeah, I want to go for Uber.
तू कैसे जानती है क्या उसको?
शक्ल देख के पता चले, शायद देखा हो.
Never seen her.
Nandana Sen, right? Daughter of Dr. Amartya Sen.
She's been in Rangrasia, Prince,
Rangrasia.
Charlie, Marigold, My Wife's Murderer. Never seen any of these movies.
Okay, first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
अरे आपने करा है ये.
Law aspirants.
कोई तो राधा करके कुछ है नहीं
Was Hiralal J. Kania or Kania?
I think current chief justice
कौन?
खन्ना
Who's the first Indian pilot? J.R.D. Tata. The same.
वो
Yep.
The
J.R.D.
one who
Tata.
died.
Huh?
the one who died मतलब वही
In
ना
1929 थे तो I'm sure he would have passed away way before. The recent famous Tata who died was Ratan Tata.
Yeah.
This is one of his forefathers, J.R.D. Tata.
Is he? I did not know that.
Entire townships are established by these guys.
Yeah.
Jamshedpur right now.
Jamshedpur.
Have you heard of Jamshedpur?
Yeah.
So what is the J in JRD for? Jamshed. It's named after him. Literally the city is named after him.
आया था जमशेदपुर
Huh?
जमशेदपुर कहाँ पे आया
Bihar side. The first lady to become Miss World. Obviously, first Indian.
Actor? I'm questioning because
I don't think so.
नहीं भाई घर वाली बाई है मेरी
not every Miss World is an actor, no?
होगी ना क्यों नहीं नहीं
ये आजकल का ट्रेंड है. The first Indian lady to become the Miss World was Rita Faria, 60s.
जिंदा है?
I think so. Not very sure, but
शायद सुना है मैंने
Rita Faria. But this was way back, 60s or 80s, I guess.
मिस वर्ल्ड में
Yeah. I mean, notions of beauty change from time to time. And these things are not defined as beauty pageants by the organizers.
When did the Miss World thing start?
Way before that, 60s or 67, way before that.
Happens every 5 years.
No!
हर साल तो
Every year.
So फिर
Every year. Huh?
अभी लास्ट ईयर तो वो बनी थी इंडियन की कोई खास तो
90s के बाद तो काफी आ गए हैं अभी.
अपने पास कुछ 12-13 है
it passed.
इंडिया के पास
First woman judge, a female judge in the Supreme Court of India.
के बाद वही लग रहा है अपने पास.
Come on. First female judge in the Supreme Court was Mira Sahib Fatima Bibi.
फर्स्ट जज नहीं मालूम वुमेन जज क्या याद रहेगा
Good point.
फर्स्ट वुमेन में खाली एक याद है प्राइम मिनिस्टर
Huh?
फर्स्ट प्राइम मिनिस्टर वुमेन याद है मेरे को बस इंदिरा गांधी
Of India,
ऑफ इंडिया
of the world, first head of state of the world,
हेड ऑफ स्टेट
female. So in India we have the prime minister. In US you have the president. So they are all technically heads of state. So the first female head of state,
ब्रिटिश मोना
not a monarch. Monarchs are technically heads of state, but not like that. First elected head of state, sort of, I would say.
यूएस का कोई
Nope. Was Sirima Bandaranaike of Sri Lanka.
श्रीलंका
Yep. India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan have all had female heads of state. Guess which country has never had a female head of state?
यूएस
The US. Bloody misogynistic buggers.
बनने वाली ना कमला हैरिस
Before Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton,
Hillary Clinton, the whole drama between both of them.
the first woman ambassador. You know who's an ambassador?
Like in support of.
ये ambassador word तो schools में भी use होता है अभी. A person who represents the organization to others. So a person who represents India in other countries are called the ambassadors. High Commission and वो सब नहीं होता.
अच्छा वो
एम्बेसी जो होती है.
Now I got it.
So the first female ambassador was Mrs. C.V. Muttamma. Miss C.V. Muttamma.
एम्बेसडर का मीनिंग ही नहीं.
The first woman governor of a state in free India. Who's the current governor of Gujarat?
मतलब क्या? सीएम.
भाई नेशन में दो इंपॉर्टेंट होते हैं, प्राइम मिनिस्टर एंड प्रेसिडेंट. Who's the first citizen of the country? The president. The prime minister serves under the president. Although all the you didn't know that. The head of the country is the president. The the executive is the prime minister. But even the appointment of the prime minister happens at the hands of the president. The president of the country of India is the head of India. That's why the president is called the first citizen of the country. So similarly, it's a titular head. Like the head of UK is technically the monarch, but all the powers are with the parliament and the prime minister. So similarly in India, the president is the titular head, but the actual power is with the prime minister. So at a state level, chief minister is the equivalent of the prime minister. Governor is equivalent of the president. So the first citizen of your state is your governor. US का
प्राइम मिनिस्टर होता है.
Nope.
He's only president.
US is a presidential system of democracy. India has a parliamentary system of democracy. So presidential system में there is one single entity who has all the powers, the president. In India we have the parliamentary system where the power is not in the hand of an individual, it's in the hand of the parliament, the group. So the first woman governor of a state was Sarojini Naidu, the Nightingale of India, called so because she was a poetess. Also played a major role in the freedom struggle. First female speaker of state assembly.
Sarojini Naidu.
Nope. It was Shanno Devi. So this is the state assembly, one of the state assemblies. The first female prime minister, India, obviously, Indira Gandhi. The first woman minister in a government, Indian government, of course. First female ever to be a minister in the government. Nope. This was Rajkumari Amrit Kaur.
कश्मीर का ना.
Punjab side, I guess. Punjab side.
Or
Kaul is Kashmiri. Kaur is Punjab side. The first female to climb the Mount Everest from India. I thought ये तो टेक्स्ट बुक्स में है. IB के करीब. IB बोर्ड
no, Cambridge.
और भी करीब. State board rocks. CBSE okay. बाकी everybody करीब. So the first woman to climb Mount Everest was Bachendri Pal. Was the first woman ever in the world to climb Mount Everest?
Cambridge के करीब.
ना स्टेट का पता, ना कंट्री का पता, ना वर्ल्ड का पता. वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री पढ़ी है.
नहीं सर ये क्या पढ़ूंगी? बस ऑप्शंस थे क्या पढ़ने, तो मैंने फिर वो चूज किया.
Junko Tabei of Japan was the first female to scale the Mount Everest.
Japan's names confuse me a lot. I don't know if they're male or female.
इनको भी क्या नाम बहुत अजीब लगता है.
तेरा नाम
सिरीशा.
First woman to climb Mount Everest twice.
दो बार क्यों
अच्छा
चढ़ा?
ये
लोग 18, 19, 20 बार पर चढ़ चुके हैं. 2 बार तो कुछ भी नहीं है.
बचेंद्री पाल
No, was Santosh Yadav.
does not sound like a female name.
That's one of the unisex names.
ड्राइवर का नाम. सेम नाम.
तू अपने घर के 2 माले बिना लिफ्ट के चढ़ सकता है? Carrying your own weight on your back. Carrying your own weight on your back.
पांगरचोला पीक चढ़ा.
हैं?
पांगरचोला पीक.
वो क्या होता है?
15,000 फुट का माउंटेन.
हो इसको परमवीर चक्र दे दो.
दे
नोबेल प्राइज 2-3 दे दो. बात है 15,000 फीट चढ़ गया है. The first woman president of the Indian National Congress, so pre-independence, was Annie Besant.
Not Indian. I mean, हो सकती है.
one of the founders. ये तो इनफैक्ट लास्ट वीक मैं जब इंडियन हिस्ट्री की बात कर रहा था इंडिपेंडेंस स्ट्रगल की तो आई गेव ऑल दीज थिंग्स. ओके, वो क्या था? Son, these people are among those who are responsible for you being able to sit and crack those idiotic jokes right now. ये लोग नहीं होते तो आज़ादी नहीं मिलती हमको. Some little bit of respect is definitely deserving. First woman pilot in the Indian Air Force. Harita Kaur Dayal. Could be.
Dayal.
Dayal was questionable.
The Kaur. First woman graduates who actually got a degree from college university. These were Kadambini Ganguly and Chandramukhi Basu in 1883. Certain countries did not even give voting rights till mid 1900s, and in India we have had females graduating from universities in the 1800s. The first woman airline pilot was Darba Banerjee.
Banerjee is a Bengali name.
Yep, it's the original is Bondopadhyay, but because the British cannot pronounce it, so Bondopadhyay became Banerjee, Mukhopadhyay became Mukherjee, Chattopadhyay became Chatterjee.
Chatterjee is also Bengali, right?
All of these are Bengalis. Thakur became Tagore. So all these are anglicized versions of the name. So it's not Rabindranath Tagore, it's Rabindranath Thakur. Thakur.
Thakur.
Literally Thakur.
They couldn't say Thakur.
अंग्रेज हैं, कुछ भी pronounce नहीं कर सकते. The first woman honors graduate. No, it was Kamini Roy in 1886.
सुना क्यों है नाम कामिनी रॉय?
It's a common name and last name. The first woman Olympic medal winner.
ये पता होना चाहिए.
बिल्कुल पता होना चाहिए.
बोल.
नहीं पता वाला.
So that was Karnam Malleshwari, weightlifting, bronze, I think. First Indian to win a gold. I don't recall that. Shit. Okay. First woman Asian Games gold medal winner
वही weightlifter.
was Kamaljit Sandhu. Shooting, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
First woman lawyer was Cornelia Sorabji.
ये भी बंगाली है.
Parsi. Sorabji, but नहीं, Sorabji, Cornelia Sorabji, typical Parsi name.
Parsi.
The first woman president of the United Nations General Assembly from India was Mrs. Vijay Lakshmi Pandit. She had a very famous brother, Jawaharlal Nehru. She was Nehru's sister.
Real sister.
वो पता नहीं, but she was Nehru's sister, I think. First woman chief minister of an Indian state.
इंदिरा गांधी.
No.
क्या मालूम उससे पहले president.
हाँ, but नहीं. So this was Sucheta Kriplani. The first woman chairman of the UPSC, the Union Public Services Commission, was Rose Millian Bethue. The first woman Director General of Police was Kanchan Chaudhary Bhattacharya. The first female judge. लिखने की तो तस्दील ले ही नहीं रहे हम लोग. Was Anna Chandy. गलती से लिख लो, अगर अगली बार कुछ आया तो एटलीस्ट रेफर करने के लिए कुछ तो होगा अपने हाथ में. Okay. The first woman Chief Justice of a High Court was Leela Seth in Himachal. So now we are all going to first female Indians.
मेल इंडियन में नहीं होना चाहिए
अभी तक most of males ही देख रहे थे. First woman judge in the Supreme Court of India. Fatima Bibi.
ये नाम था ना पहले, स्पेलिंग अलग थी.
बीबी
हाँ, that I know.
Meena Meera something था नाम.
लिखा नहीं
The first woman Lieutenant General was Lieutenant General Punita Arora. तो चेयर तोड़ के रहेगा मेरा.
सर चीफ जस्टिस और जज में क्या डिफरेंस है
हाँ?
चीफ जस्टिस और जज में
Take a guess.
जज मतलब he orders and gives those
Yeah.
sentence वो सब चीफ जस्टिस इम्प्लीमेंट
First of all, justice and judge are the same thing.
क्या डिफरेंस
There are
Now we
multiple
difference.
justices on the bench, out of which one of them is the big boss. Who is the chief justice? I thought that was pretty obvious. Minister and chief minister में क्या फर्क
It's a
होता है?
board, right?
हाँ?
There's like a board.
It's called a bench. It's called a bench of judges. So there are multiple judges on the bench, and the
one that
the
sits on
chief.
the big chair.
every chair is big, the central chair. So one who is the authority is the chief
The
justice.
hammer one.
Everybody has a hammer. He's the main one. He's the big boss. Basically, he's the in charge. He's in charge. That's it. So the Supreme Court may you have justices, and one of them is the chief justice. Okay. The first woman Air Vice Marshal was P. Bandopadhyay.
Any idea where she was from?
Wild guess, Bengali.
हिमाचल
Bandopadhyay is Banerjee. I just said Mukhopadhyay, Bandopadhyay, Chattopadhyay because the British could not pronounce. They became Banerjee, Mukherjee, Chatterjee.
Some people still stay with like their original.
So both versions are used now.
नहीं ना
The first woman chairperson of Indian Airlines. By the way, I've had an update here that Air India was started because of J.R.D. Tata. The Tatas started Air India, and then it became nationalized, and then they took it back. It was privatized back. So J.R.D. Tata, not only the first pilot, also responsible for setting up Air India, India's premier airlines. Okay, the first woman chairperson of Indian Airlines was Sushma Chawla.
तो इंडियन एयरलाइंस एयर इंडिया ही वो
There were two, Air India and Indian Air. Indian Airlines was a domestic carrier and Air India was the international carrier. And then they were merged as one. Okay, the first woman IPS officer. This is Kiran Bedi. I thought this was very commonly known. There was an entire television series on her life story called Udan on Doordarshan, 90s.
Doordarshan.
90s. But she was very famous for upholding the law. Once she had the Prime Minister's car towed away because it was in a no parking zone. I think Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister at that time, and her car was parked in a no parking zone. Kiran Bedi got it towed away. Khatam. She said, I don't care whose car it is. No parking mein hai, tow karo, chalan bharo. And after that, I mean, then she of course was the governor for Pondicherry very recently.
So she's alive.
Very much so.
When was
This was 80s. Very much so. Kiran Bedi is now active in politics. She was temporarily she was aligned with the Aam Aadmi Party at some point of time during the Lok Adalat thing.
Because of the car
Obvious.
parking.
Obvious. Do you think a politician is going to let it go like that?
क्यों नहीं
अरे
बट
female रखने से female ऐसे कुछ
हाँ?
female रखने से female ऐसे कुछ बुरा लग गया होगा.
प्राइम मिनिस्टर भी फीमेल है वो
कुछ
देख
भी.
मैं तो बोला.
ये भी फीमेल है
But of course,
लगा
she
नहीं है, बहन है, ऐसा लगा.
Kiran Bedi became very famous after the incident, and obviously because of being the first female, but also very fearless in taking on politicians. Because now very much into politics. Okay, first and last Muslim woman ruler of India. The only Muslim ruler, female who was a Muslim and who was the ruler in India.
Ruler?
Akbar, Babur, Humayun,
Yes.
Shah Jahan, Jahangir.
Ruler से पता चल जाता है. I don't think I know this.
So this was Razia Sultan. The first woman to receive the Ashok Chakra.
अरे उसका मूवी आया ना गंजन सेक्सी ना नहीं
Hmm?
I don't.
You are thinking Gunjan Saxena.
गंजन
That was pilot. But I think this इस पे इन पे भी movie बनी है शायद. If once I get the name, I'll recall it.
Like what did that person do?
Yeah, Neerja Bhanot.
Neerja Bhanot.
This
वो
was the
Panama Airlines में
airline hijacking.
Yeah, I know.
हाँ देखा
Sonam
है
Kapoor.
मैंने
Yeah.
Sonam Kapoor.
And Neerja Bhanot was way better looking than Sonam Kapoor. Neerja Bhanot was a model. She modeled for. I mean, during those days, they used to have. They used to have multiple.
Jobs.
And it was not uncommon for them to, for air hostesses to be models, and vice versa. Not uncommon. Now, because there are so many people, everybody has. What? She was killed. She was killed on the flight by terrorists. It can be given post-mortem. Posthumously it is awarded. So,
Or their sacrifice.
yep. So Neerja, the movie Neerja was, so it is based on the life and death of Neerja Bhanot. And one of the rare instances where the person who played the role was not as good looking as the original person. In fact, people of the 80s and 90s would recall so many ads in which the face was there. Okay. The first woman to receive the Jnanpith Award. You've already seen the Jnanpith Award.
This is acha. Oh, then I don't know.
This was Ashapurna Devi. Oriya, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to check. First woman to cross the English Channel. First person was
First.
Mihir Sen. The first woman was Aarti Saha.
क्या मजा आता है एक क्रॉस करने में इंग्लिश चैनल
Oh, somebody brilliantly asked a mountain climber, why did you climb the Mount Everest? And you know what was his classic response?
What?
Because it was there.
बहुत सारे चैनल थे इंग्लिश चैनल के
It is huge. It is very, very dangerous. It is very dangerous to swim across it. And it's not just the only channel which people swim. People swim across all sort of water bodies.
ना मतलब माउंट एवरेस्ट का makes sense because the tallest mountain इसमें ऐसा क्या
English Channel is famous and very dangerous to cross.
Like why? Because it's deep.
It's the ocean. You're talking about Atlantic and Pacific. You're talking about an ocean.
How is it like?
It doesn't take a few minutes to cross. It takes a few hours to swim across among sharks and jellyfish and stuff.
Have people like obviously.
Why do people do anything? Why do people go to the North Pole, South Pole, Everest, around the earth, in a flight, in a ship?
घूमने के लिए
घूमने के लिए नहीं. To be the first one to do something. So the first woman to receive the Nobel Prize was Mother Teresa.
She was from where in India?
बेंगलोर
She was based out of Calcutta in
Yeah.
West Bengal. She's not an Indian by birth.
Yeah.
She's an Albanian by birth, but became an Indian. And she was known as the saint of the gutters.
Yeah.
And after her death, she was canonized by the Vatican. Saint Teresa.
Oh, acha.
She's been given sainthood. And a very controversial figure.
Yeah.
If you read a book by Christopher Hitchens, he supposedly exposes the hypocrisy of this person. So you should read up.
What did she do?
According to the book and according to a lot of people, she used to believe in pain and suffering for others. She would receive a lot of money from a lot of organizations and people, but did not give the. She believed that people, all the pain and suffering is good for your soul and stuff. So she never gave them medicines, and she would often require them to convert to Christianity before even giving them basic care. Although she herself had a lot of money spent on her own care and went abroad for treatment and stuff. So there are a lot of these stories which you can read up on the internet. How much of it is true? read and form your own opinion. But very controversial figure.
Makes sense.
Okay, first woman to receive the Bharat Ratna.
Oh, for being Prime Minister.
Nominated by self for self. Very controversial Bharat Ratna.
क्या लोग
Very controversial Bharat Ratna. First woman to receive. Should be the same. Asha Purna Devi. Yep, same.
Indira Gandhi was assassinated.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bomb.
Short.
Was she assassinated after her emergency period?
Yeah. How can someone be assassinated and then have an emergency in the country declared by self?
After the emergency period ended or during the
Emergency was 70s. She was assassinated in 84.
like fully after.
But during her presidency, no?
But it was not related to emergency. Actually, there was something called the Operation Blue Star. So what happened
That's
was...
how, that thing now, nuclear bomb ka testing.
Nah, that was Operation Buddha. Operation Blue Star was a lot of terrorists were holed up inside the Golden Temple. So the military was sent into the Golden Temple to bring them out, and a lot of Sikhs were aggravated that how can you send the army into one of our most religious places? So they were against, the Sikhs were agitating. So her two Sikh bodyguards, actually when she was walking out, they just shot her dead. And then there was a lot of riots in which a lot of Sikhs were murdered in and around Delhi. To which very infamously someone from the party said, कि जब पेड़ गिरता है तो आवाज तो होगी. But that's why were so many people dying in these riots? So एक बड़ा पेड़ गिरता है तो आवाज तो होगी. Very insensitive statements. Okay. The first wax statue of a living Indian. हाँ क्यों नहीं? But नहीं. This was Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi.
1939.
When he was living, the statue was made. It was not made after his death, because a lot of statues are generally made after they die. This statue was made when he was actually alive. Madame Tussauds. The first Chinese pilgrim to visit India.
ये थोड़ी याद रहेगा सर.
History textbooks में होता है ये सब.
ये तो 19
Was Fahin. You're talking about either before Christ or early after.
कब का ये ना?
Very old, centuries back. First exclusive internet magazine. More of your vibe. India.
अच्छा ओ
But interesting to know where our brain goes.
वो भाई कहाँ से? भाई फरियाद आदमी.
She was Miss World.
प्रियंका चोपड़ा.
First Miss World. Come on, guys. तुम्हारे जमाने का जीके भी मेरे को ही याद रखना पड़ता है. Priyanka Chopra is literally a contemporary. And she was Miss World. Who was Miss Universe when Priyanka Chopra became Miss World? And who was Miss Asia Pacific when Priyanka Chopra became Miss World?
देखो मालूम है.
मुझे क्यों मालूम होना चाहिए?
लड़की है तू.
The year Priyanka Chopra became Miss World, Miss Universe was Lara Datta. And Miss Asia Pacific was... Dude, Lara Datta तो पता है.
Oh, अच्छा ये. She was Miss Universe.
Yes. So she was the winner of Miss India. Priyanka Chopra was second.
एक second में Miss Universe.
Miss Universe is the first one. The second is goes to Miss World. And
अच्छा, okay, I get it.
and during that time, Miss Asia Pacific was also, and she's a very popular Dia Mirza. Dia Mirza was Asia Pacific. So all three Indians won the beauty title during that year. Lara Datta, Priyanka Chopra, and Dia Mirza.
Miss
हाँ,
Universe
दिया
कौन
मिर्जा
था?
आएगा.
Obviously, no. Huh?
Miss Universe प्रियंका चोपड़ा.
Miss Universe was Lara Datta.
So the winner of Miss India goes to Miss Universe. That was Lara Datta. The first runner-up goes to Miss World. That was Priyanka Chopra. And the second runner-up goes to Asia Pacific. That was Dia Mirza. So during that year, all three winners were Indians. 2000, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, but the first Miss India to participate in Universe was Indrani Rahmani. First Indian to win Miss Universe.
She. Oh, you're asking.
I'm asking.
अरे फरियाद याद.
Miss World थी वो. First Indian to win Miss
कब का
Universe.
है?
94.
Before Lara Dutta.
Before Lara Dutta.
कोई actress हुई
Yes.
famous?
Miss World was also won by an Indian during the same year.
जया बच्चन.
What?
Guess नहीं.
The person who won Miss World during that year was none other than Aishwarya Rai.
हाँ.
So
I
who
guess
won?
that-
So who won Miss Universe when Aishwarya Rai was Miss World? Technically, this person beat Aishwarya Rai in Miss India. So who was the winner of Miss India and Miss Universe during Aishwarya Rai's time? Very famous person. सुष्मिता सेन.
Oh. Crazy.
अब ये मत बोलना कि नहीं पता
ना,
सुष्मिता
ना,
सेन
पता
कौन
है,
है.
but
सुष्मिता सेन है.
पता है.
She defeated Aishwarya Rai in Miss India.
मिस यूनिवर्स में कैसे जीती?
हाँ?
मिस यूनिवर्स में कैसे जीती?
कैसे जीती यानी? So the winner of Miss India goes to participate in Miss Universe. That was Sushmita Sen. The first runner-up of Miss India goes to participate in Miss World. That was Aishwarya Rai. So both of the winner of India won Miss Universe. The first runner-up of India won Miss World. So obviously India में तो सुष्मिता सेन ने defeat किया ना उनको. First president of the Indian National Congress, female. हाँ ये तो किया हुआ है. नहीं, not female, sorry, general. So that was W.C. Banerjee. First Muslim president of INC.
Zakir Hussain.
I think we are repeating these now.
Yeah.
Badruddin Tayyab ji. नहीं ये नया था. First graduate in medicine, Surjo Kumar Gudev Chakrabarti. That's the anglicized spelling.
That's the
Angrez
अच्छा.
spelling, anglicized spelling.
We just write the first two names.
SC लिखना.
So Chakrabarti is the Angrezi version of Chakravarti or Chakraborty.
वो
Those buggers can't pronounce Indian names, especially from West Bengal and down south.
असली नाम क्या है?
Suraj Kumar Gudev Chakravarti.
Suraj Kumar.
So Surjo would be the Bengali pronunciation of Suraj.
Sir, my voice is very
Suraj Kumar Gudev Chakrabarti.
गुरुदेव.
Gudev या गुरुदेव होगा कुछ.
कुमार को सी डबल ओ कौन? कुमार कैसे प्रोनाउंस?
Kumar.
Kumar.
Buggers can't pronounce our names.
हम उनका कर सकते हैं.
Okay. Away from people. Which was India's first
Oh,
university?
अपना ऋषिकेश के बाजू में. It was a Sanskrit university. जहाँ पे
Most of them would be.
Muslims ने पूरा जला दिया था.
Yep.
बड़ा लाइब्रेरी. नाम भूल गया.
Nalanda. This is in Bihar.
ओ
Crazy.
भाई यही था.
Why crazy?
No, I don't know.
Because when we say Bihar, we associate it with a lot of bad things. Do you know
No,
maximum number of civil services and administrative officers come from those regions? You go to kids in Bihar, you talk to them about math, English and general knowledge, they will beat you left, right and center.
Sir, all children beat us left, right, and center in maths.
वो तो बात अलग है.
I met this one child in school for like a school thing. He multiplied 4-digit numbers ऐसे ही 2 मिनट में.
2 minute?
2 मिनट में भी नहीं सर.
2 minute is too much.
सर बेचारा
2-3 second बोलो.
बच्चा वो.
मैं भी बोलता हूँ. But
And this is because they don't. The reason why a lot of Bihari kids are good at those things is exactly because they don't come from privilege and they know the stereotype about Biharis. So they want to.
People wrong.
So they want to come out of it. They understand. They realize the importance of these things. So you take a look at a lot of these civil service examinations, top entrance examinations, and a disproportionate amount of children come from those regions. जितना importance पढ़ाई का बिहार में देते कहीं और नहीं देते. Okay. India's first open university. You know what are open universities, right? Distance universities and things like that. Distance learning and things like that. So this was Andhra Pradesh Open University.
क्यों AIDS?
The first Indian to reach Antarctica was Lieutenant Ramcharan. The first Britisher to visit India
Columbus.
was Portuguese.
British.
No, Columbus I think was Spanish. Columbus first of all never came to India. Columbus went to America when he wanted. Vasco
Da Vinci.
अरे नहीं
Vasco da Gama was the first Portuguese who came to India. Da Vinci lived and died in Italy. Da Vinci lived and died in
See,
Italy.
at least Columbus is better than Da Vinci.
And
Columbus wanted to come to India, landed up in America, North America.
India.
He wanted to come
He wanted to come
to India.
to India,
Yes,
took
so
a wrong
India
turn and
was-
exactly, but took a wrong turn, reached. So he supposedly discovered America. Why is America called America and not Colombia if Columbus supposedly discovered it? Why is America called America?
The people were called them, the tribe called them.
Nope. There was an Italian cartographer, map drawer by the name of Amerigo Vespucci.
What?
There was an Italian map drawer, cartographer called Amerigo Vespucci. And it's after Amerigo that America is
Then
named.
why not Colombia? Like, why not Columbus? Columbia?
People who draw the maps get to name things, I guess.
Arey, हाँ, but I mean America. Why would that person not want America named after him? Colombia देखा
He
है?
was a map maker, so take a wild guess. चुरा या क्या नाम दिया है कोलंबस के नाम पे क्यों दो उसको तो बबगर को पता भी नहीं था लेफ्ट राइट राइट क्या है निकला कहीं से पहुंचना कहीं पे था पहुंच कहीं गया है
Cartographer कहाँ पहुंचा उसमें वैसे?
The first British to visit India was Hawkins. The first test tube baby of India. You know, understand what a test tube baby is? Artificial lab. So this was Indira or baby Harsha.
Baby Harsha. Indira was the name of the child, no?
Yeah, also known as baby Harsha.
कब की बात है ये?
This won't be very long back by my standards.
First post office, Delhi, no.
Kolkata.
Kolkata, bro.
Kolkata was the capital of
Capital,
India. By order, it was changed from Kolkata to Delhi. By the, huh? Delhi is more central as compared to any port city.
पोर्ट है ना तो बेटर नहीं है.
But Port Health is also vulnerable, and you would want something more central. Technically speaking, then it should either be Hyderabad or somewhere in Madhya Pradesh. But seat of power has always been Delhi.
इंदौर एक्चुअली मस्त होता है.
ये हो गया ना?
First in the world.
ओ अरे
You just said the name. Something Nepali name.
Nanjing.
So Sherpa Tenzing and Sir Edmund Hillary.
Edmund Hillary.
Robert Perry.
Robert Perry.
Robert Perry.
Amundsen.
From where?
Slovenia.
Robert Peary, most of them would either be UK or could be a Scandinavian, mostly UK. At the time, UK people were the biggest explorer of things.
First religion?
Hinduism.
I thought it was like Buddhist or something.
Buddhism
Sabse
was derived
US
from Hinduism. Buddhism is barely anything. And it came from Hinduism. Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, they are all offshoots of Hinduism. What was originally called Sanatan Dharma. Buddhism is very recent. It's young compared to most of the other religions.
UK.
US.
US को पैदा हुए 300 साल नहीं हुए हैं.
India. No.
China.
Oh, हाँ, the
Chinese were the first to print. UK was the first to officially print it using machines. But hand printing existed before that.
UK.
Currency is printed.
हाँ, UK.
हाँ.
So first one to print anything was
UK. अच्छा, China. Oh, right. I thought machine printed, right?
so literally first country to print was China. So for first country to print a currency
Was China?
is China because paper was also majorly invented in China. पेपर वहां पे है, प्रिंटिंग वहां पे है, तो छापेगा कौन?
China. India. China.
सिविल सर्विसेज भी चाइना है.
George Washington.
हाँ हाँ हाँ.
George Washington.
यूएसए का
Internet-
नहीं पढ़ा है.
तो क्या
George
पढ़ा
Washington
है?
है.
इंडिया नहीं पढ़ा. इंटरनेशनल में फिर क्या पढ़ा है?
मेरे को मालूम.
स्लोवेनिया एंड नेपाल.
नहीं,
फिर?
नेपाल नहीं पढ़ा है.
तो क्या पढ़ा है?
अरे यार सर मत पूछो.
George
नेक्स्ट
Washington
टाइम
है.
टेक्स्ट बुक लेके आ जाओ, अब एक देख लेना एक बार.
नहीं.
कुछ तो पता है.
अच्छे. ऋषि सुंदर.
हाँ? डूड तेरे पैदा
कोई अच्छा बोलने
होने
के
के
बाद
बाद
Churchill.
कोई नाम अगर पता है.
Winston Churchill.
Was
Churchill
before
doing,
slightly before
Cold
India's
War.
slightly before
Cold War
India's
हुआ है.
independence. Cold War was 60s.
भाई.
Churchill was in the
वो जो
40s.
Iron Curtain- no, but didn't Churchill से the Iron Curtain thingy?
40s में
40s
चर्चिल थे.
में, हाँ.
चर्चिल के बाद तो you had Clement Attlee who was the
Who
prime
said-
minister during Indian
who said the,
independence.
Iron Curtain thingy?
Definitely not Churchill. Churchill was more during Gandhi.
Wait, someone wait, let me
कौन है?
check.
First Walpole, Robert Walpole. 1700s. UK has had prime ministers for centuries now. First,
He was Churchill. Iron Curtain speech during the Cold War was given by Churchill. That's why I said Churchill.
but was he the prime minister during that
No,
time?
he was some leader.
Ah.
Huh.
So Winston Churchill was prime minister during the 40s.
40s.
First governor general was Trygve Lie from Norway.
After Churchill, there was Clement.
Attlee.
Ah.
During 1947 when India got independence, Clement Attlee was the president, prime minister. चलो फुटी फैंस आ जाओ.
Brazil.
ना Uruguay.
Uruguay.
I don't know that.
India.
No.
ना,
India
US.
borrowed
US,
the
US,
constitution
US.
from different countries.
What?
So was US.
कल ही तो क्या? मतलब
Yeah, 4th of July.
Was Governor General of Pakistan.
नहीं,
Oh.
जिन्ना.
जिन्ना खुद को ही बनाएंगे ना.
नाम समझे.
Non-aligned movement.
UK?
हाँ.
Yugoslavia.
Hmm.
Which country is famous for the non-aligned movement? India.
Oh, first European to attack India.
Portuguese.
Oh, right, the
Greek.
first European to reach China.
Alexander.
No, Alexander died before that.
Marco Polo.
So उसकी कहानी.
Oh, Wright
Wright
brothers.
Columbus.
ना 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 ना.
Around the world.
शेड मूवी का नाम. मैं कहीं तो पढ़ा था. हाँ मैं.
Ferdinand Magellan.
नहीं ना.
US.
So which
US.
country?
US, yes, sorry.
US.
Russia.
Hmm. Greece.
Modern Olympics.
Greece.
Athens, Greece.
Athens.
Hiroshima.
Japan. Japan.
City.
Hiroshima.
So it was Hiroshima.
Hiroshima.
The other one was
Nagasaki.
Nagasaki.
Neil
Neil Armstrong.
There were 3 people who went to the moon in the first
But only
mission.
four, like the
Armstrong and Edwin actually stepped on the moon. Michael Collins
Buzz
never.
Aldrin.
Buzz Aldrin is Edwin Aldrin. Michael Collins went to the moon but never stepped on the moon.
But he saw the moon.
हाँ, वो तो मैं भी देखा हुआ है. Somebody had to parking, no parking में था ना. तो अगर कोई खड़ा अंदर नहीं होता तो चलान लग जाती. तो no parking में था इसलिए
chances नहीं है इसलिए तू जा फिर मैं जाता हूँ.
वारा फरती वारा ऐसा.
और shuttle को construct.
So shuttle is a reusable spacecraft.
ये एक्सप्लोरर कुछ था.
Was Columbia.
कोलंबिया एक्सप्लोरर. क्यूरियोसिटी.
Viking.
वाइकिंग.
Oh.
The Iron Lady.
Yeah.
This is first Muslim female prime minister. Sorry,
Acha.
not just Muslim. The first female Muslim prime minister, Benazir Bhutto of Pakistan. Her son recently is a lot in the news.
भुट्टो
Bilawal Bhutto. कौन रात को हमला करता है? After India sent its diplomats after
Oh.
Operation Sindoor, Pakistan also sent a group of diplomats headed by Bilawal Bhutto.
उसका इसका बेटा है
He is the son of Benazir Bhutto. You should, it's not trolling हुआ है बगर का. You should go and watch his video on YouTube, the statements which he has made and the way Indians have trolled him, including a few politicians of ours.
You just said this.
Country भी name कर दो तो enough है.
श्रीलंका वाला था.
Sirima Bandar Naike of Sri Lanka.
अभी ये भी बोला था आपने.
वो इंडियन था
That was Bachendri Pal was Indian, first woman ever. Country के साथ बोला था. And you said country के नाम से समझ में नहीं आता है कुछ.
जापान
जापान.
This was Unko Tabei of Japan. So an astronaut is usually what the Westerners call it. Russians call it cosmonaut. So first female astronaut. Cosmonaut है तो Russian होगी. Yuri Gagarin was the first male. So Yuri Gagarin was the first male, also from Russia. The first female was Valentina Tereshkova, also from Russia.
तो लेका वो तो कुत्ता
First dog in space.
Oh,
Nehru,
हाँ, but
the first woman.
first man to plant this.
यूरी
Gagarin.
बैट्समैन
पता नहीं, cricket.
एक सेकंड